Well, greetings. Greetings. It looks like I'm back on YouTube again. I don't know if some of the people that have been subscribing to this channel and tune into some of these live streams know that the last time I did so on the 21st, I had it interrupted. They wouldn't save. Actually, even before that, I think they wouldn't allow my videos to be completed. So they were upcoming. They were listed in the upcoming section. And then when that happened, I ended up doing a Facebook live stream on the Sawyer Heaven's Gate page. For anybody that, some people I know don't have Facebook. I mean to actually put that on. I should take the video because I had the video of it. I should upload it here. I'll do that. Yeah. So, well, that's not the one I wanted. Okay, that's, I mean, I want to actually go through both of these documents that I've, call them documents, these comments that I made that I, yeah, so I know I'm talking now like I know what I'm talking about, and I'm afraid to say I do. When I talk about this, what's happened, and I'm not wanting to talk about what's happening in the human kingdom, except to say that it was all talked about before, and a lot of Christians are aware of that, and so it took a Christian reminding me about the prophecy in Revelation 11 that said that the two witnesses would have power over the over plagues. So let me go to that spot here, because I didn't even remember that, and I've been talking about this for years. And I forgot to pay attention to that part. Right in Revelation 11, one of two chapters that Tiendo specifically referred to as having truth in it. The fact that two people were going to come incarnate, and in Revelation 12 that it was going to be a woman and a man. So that shows you how blind we can be. I mean, I don't think I'm alone in that. I think we all have, we all have, degrees of blindness to what's really happening. And, it depends on the departments in which we work, but we even have blindness in those areas. In other words, we could be a scientist working on the next cure for a virus, okay? And And it can be, working at it and working at it and working at it, and one little thing can happen or not, and all of a sudden they recognize, holy smokes, I've been going down the same road for years even, and this was right in front of my eyes to try this, or to see that in a different way that enabled me to think about trying this. Now, Tiendo talked about that as that's like the souls had more, they could do more in the spirit world than spirits can do. Because they're like in between. They're plasma physicality, but souls contain spirit. So they've got an interface there to the spirit world. Because souls are containers. It's like the vehicle, human vehicle is also a container for mind. And a soul is a container for mind, but it's only a next level mind. Where the human container, the flesh container, is a container for misinformation mind, and has a combination of a next level mind in it. But in terms of volume, is dominated by misinformation mind. I think maybe it could be said that way. I could be wrong about that. But the next level mind, can seem very small, but is very powerful. And Jesus used the example of the kingdom of heaven was like yeast that you put inside the bread and flour, and it can rise it really big. In other words, little seeds are an example of that also, I think. Little tiny packages that pack a wallop. So I'm going to read this document for those that might be listening in on this broadcast, and which this is the comment I put on my Story of Heaven's Gate page. I have to offer the truth to those who in some way think Jesus was some extraordinarily special in the records. Someone extraordinarily special in the records, by providing some of the key pointers to helping some potentially recognize how he returned and was incarnate as Doe in the vehicle that was named, that Doe named for the second part of his task. Before that, they were Bo and Peep, and Bo was Doe and Peep was T. And then on the other side of it, it was T and Doe, because T is the one that woke up Doe. So when people think that Doe got off track after T left the vehicle, and there's a lot of people that think that, even ex-members of the group, because it led to them laying down their lives. There's a lot of evidence that T was putting her full faith in Doe. So if we thought that T was on track as being an older member from the next level, and Doe got off track, or however we want to think about that, as two humans, but T had the better vision, maybe some people might say, because initially they were talking about leaving with their bodies, and that probably sounds better to humans, and maybe that's even which actually ended up being true because it was their soul bodies. That they filled into the soul pocket in the vehicles that they were prepared for, which is a different kind of soul pocket. So I guess it could take the return of a soul. I guess like a kind of merger, I guess, some degree. I don't know, they never talked about it to that degree. Greetings, Jeff. You know what? I forgot to get my water. So excuse me a second here, but well, let me go down to Revelation. Well, let me put this on the screen first. How come I don't see it? Oh, because it needs to be brought up, I guess. There it is. All right. I mean, I could switch to a different screen, but I don't know. But what I was going through was the book of Revelations, chapter 11, I wanted to go to. Okay, there you go. Okay, so let's see what it says about the two witnesses. 11:3. I should have known it was to the top of it. I'm just looking a little spaced out, I guess, right? With this chapter right now, anyway. But and I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Okay, now that's. I didn't know I was going to be talking about this, but I guess I got to. After all, I just said that these two were the Father and Jesus returned. So stay hydrated. Yes, thank you. I'm going to take a break and get hydrated. So where was I? Revelation 11. Okay, so I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. Okay, so that's saying that two people will come and they will give their testimony. This isn't spiritual. We're not talking about spiritual. We're saying that two people will plan to come. It was a mission. It was a task the next level was doing with two of their older members. And they shall prophesy, and so they will speak the truth publicly. That's what prophecy means. Inspired by the next level. And that's for us to determine whether we think it's from the next level or not, based on what comes true. 1,200, and I mean that's the that truth is going to be relative to what the person is prepared for and chooses to believe, because it's always a choice. I mean, even if it seems like it's something obvious, we're still believing it, and we're not recognizing that even the obvious things can be seen in a different way many times, especially between human information and next level information and things that the next level does, in the physical world and nature and all kinds of things like that. It's like there's a camouflage that we have on. It's like a veil, and I don't know. I'm describing it as a veil. I didn't hear that description from Tien Do, but I mean, Do said that the spirits were echoes. So that's the sound. They're like little sound waves, I guess. Bouncing off what? Bouncing off the electromagnetic field of the Earth? Bouncing off the vehicle? That's a part of that electromagnetic field also? Bouncing off the flesh? And then when it dies, it continues to keep on sounding a lot of the frequencies, except for the frequencies that have to do with the actual functions of the biology. Anyway, so and then 1,260 days. That's 1,260 days, and Tien Do they set out the way they told the story. They really set out when they left Houston. So January 1st, 1973. So 3.5 years, 1,260 days. They said it in days because I believe they meant it to be in days in this circumstance. Well, other times they say months. Months actually has more than one meaning in the Greek. It can also mean period of time of making affirmation. It's an affirmation period. And and then clothed in sackcloth, and actually they finished the testimony. Actually, T announced the finish of it on April 21st, 1976. So all you got to do is go to June, and you got 3.5 years. And what they gave instructions that when they told us about that the harvest was over, that was the last meeting they had. But they gave us instructions to continue the meetings that we had set up. Because, like, for instance, my group had a meeting set up for Fayetteville, Arkansas at the time. And so we followed through with that, and that took us into June by the time that was all done. And then they said, you need to have some tune time, they called it, TOMB time. They never spelled it, but they said it tune time. I don't think I misunderstood what they said, where it was tune-in time. Because, I mean, the picture I got from it was that they wanted us to be by ourselves not like with our partner all the time necessarily, just so we had some private time, so we weren't aware of somebody else being aware of us, and that the way that kind of works and kind of influences us sometimes. And so we took more walks, and we were living outdoors in tents at that point. Now we were living in Cape Girardeau in a campground, Missouri at that point. That's when Junodi went and had her baby, which they gave to a commune, and I think it might have been Arkansas or Missouri. I'm not sure where exactly that was, but Mercodi was a partner. That's Mark in the Heaven's Gate group. In the Heaven's Gate website, webmaster was her partner, and they were overseers of that group. I joined that group after I was kind of lost for about 4 or 5 months. I didn't know where they were. I was hitchhiking back and forth with my partner that Tiendo had assigned me, named Dandy. Anyway, but so that gives a little context to it. But so that's the 1,260 days. And then they were clothed in sackcloth. Well, sackcloth just meant those were the bags that they used for the beans and rice or whatever grains they had or whatever else they had, that after they were opened up and dumped out, the poor ended up getting access to them, and so they made their clothes out of them. Which they might have been pretty itchy, but might have been pretty fine. So does that mean that Tiendo would have to, the two witnesses have to be clothed in burlap bags? No, it just means that it's not the king's clothing. It's not the clothing of the priests, because the religious all end up mutating into thinking that they need to dress their part, because I guess Moses set that example for them. But that was for specific people. That was a lesson step for them to serve. There might have been like 1 million people that left Egypt during that Exodus. Because what they said in the records was 600,000 men. I think that was a term for males. Because at that time, maybe they didn't count females, even though the females certainly had had authority with the males. In the families and in the relationships, even though their vehicles were not as strong as the male vehicles. But some of them could have been pretty strong too. Like female vehicles now, there can be very many strong ones. So, but I don't know. There probably was a dominance in terms of strengths, and because that's what they needed to get a lot of lessons about. Who the men would be wrong to potentially impregnate. And every form of it, every intercourse, if they didn't know to try to stop it from happening, potentially can result in a baby. So that's why that was in order to. He said that was to bring some more order to their lives, instead of just being willy-nilly about who they impregnate and how many different people. That looks logical, right? If you want to have a society that is worth a darn, because otherwise, who's going to care for those kids the most? It was the people that bore them, especially when you got a lot of other kids around. It's very practical to do the best job for the kids. American Indians, believe that the children were raised by the uncles, were the disciplinarians, but raised by the community, and that's true. In a commune, that's got to be that's the case. But that's the same way, really, with communities all over the United States and the world, because they go to school in the community and they make their friends there, and their relatives sometimes live nearby, and so they're all participating in the raising of them. But in the American Indians, I guess the parents didn't discipline the kids; they just loved them, I guess, or were there for them in other ways. I don't know if that's the next level idea or not. Might be. It's certainly an option, because we've seen it happen, right? So that's duh. Anyway, so I'll go down to the next verse in Revelation 11. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. Okay, so olive trees, if you go back to Zechariah chapter 4, you see him talking about olive trees and candlesticks. And that he's corresponding, he's communicating with a crew member from the next level. Is being depicted. And I don't doubt that happened. And I think Jesus referred to Zechariah one time. So therefore I can link the name of that Old Testament prophet with Jesus. And since I know that Tiendo said that everything that Jesus said in the four Gospels was kept accurate, and then I can make that link and depend on that having value. But that doesn't mean that every word of Zechariah would be accurate, but the things that were pertaining to what Jesus said and what before and after he left, coming through John in this case, so that becomes a matter of belief, whether that happened or not. And that's okay, but then what you can do is compare it to the teachings of Jesus, where he talked about things related to this, which right off the top of my head, he used trees as a comparison, and olive trees as a comparison, because olive oil was the oil that the virgins had. And there were virgins who recovered their virginity, according to Doe. It didn't mean that they had never had babies, or had never had, what they call human intercourse. But they had made themselves virgins because they were restraining themselves from their sexuality. Or at the least, they weren't propagating. I think might be able to be said. But at the time when they would meet the older members, up until that point, they might have been engaged to some degree of that activity, because it's part of the awakening to break out of it, and it becomes a task. So it's like they even if some had, well, I think even if some had overcome their sexuality and their gender identity, because there's two different things there to overcome. the way of the next level is that they still would be faced with it again when they came back, because it just only makes them stronger to fight it off again. And fighting it off is because it's not a moral thing. It's not like a right or wrong kind of thing. It's just that members of the next level don't have sexuality and they don't propagate like mammals do. They don't propagate at all, except they have new graduates come into their midst, and they grow vehicles for them. So they don't need to have somebody else for it to happen. Well, it's just not done in an animal way. That's the bottom line. Because next level vehicles are more like a plant type of. It's not flesh like humans are flesh. Doe said that, and I think that's where I got the idea of them being like a plant. And you can see a picture of them on some of my screens of the older member, but I'm not going to go there right now. I better make sure that I'm still broadcasting here, because the other day I was, okay, it says I am. All right. The other day I was going, and I had one of the, like, this Bible screen in front of the time clock that was ticking by, and so I went for I don't know how long after being disconnected. I think Jeff, you said, what's up, and that's when I got disconnected twice. Actually, that happened. Or maybe it was disconnected once, but it made two files out of it. So maybe it would have been able to be salvaged, but I don't know. You didn't miss anything, I don't think. I re-listened to some of it, and I can always do a better job. So, but that one in particular, that was right in the middle of the, the current, still continuing crisis. And so I was as confused as everybody else, and I don't think I'm that confused right now. And by the way, I think it will pass in the not too distant future. I think Andrew Cuomo is like way off his wig, saying like, it might be 4 to 6 months. It's like, wow. I don't know if there's other Democrats that want that, but Cuomo, initially talking about that people shouldn't get together to play basketball. Well, he loosened that a little bit, and he said, don't do any contact sports. But, gosh, when it's old people that are dying, doesn't make any sense at all. I understand, trying to keep it down and being afraid of it and all that. I think they were all like, shocked what's going on. And they're taking advantage of it, of course, politically and for money. And, they want to send a lot of money to people that don't need it. Don't need it. Frank, just to be perfectly frank. They think they need it. I'm not going to go through all the ways I think that they justify that. talked about it before, but I want to really put my focus more on the individuals that are coming from this, that now have the positive that's coming out of this is that if people are staying home more and yet they're like puzzled and like, like amazed at what they're watching in the world, because 99% of the people that get it, have no symptoms to mild flu symptoms to, severe flu symptoms. They're a whole range, but not symptoms that kill them. And that was said actually on national TV. So I better not get docked for saying that over here, because it was on Trump conference today, the press conference that he gave with his medical staff, the people that he gathered together to be the task force against this virus. They had a doctor there who, a woman's voice, I forgot her name, but she said that this is not a serious event, but we do need to take the precautions of making sure that it doesn't get worse. Well, I don't think she said that, but somebody else said that. And Trump just said the same thing. He was downplaying its severity, because she said actually that 99% of the people in Italy that were dying were people that had underlying conditions. Most of them were in these homes where their immune systems are like hardly working because they're basically on drugs to keep them alive. They didn't say all that, but that's what the case is. I know my mother was in a home with all kinds of medications and before she passed. So that's not being insensitive to the people that are losing their loved ones. It's always upsetting to the people that are losing their loved ones. I was upset when my mother left, but at the same time, after 4 years of her to where she got to where she couldn't even hardly recognize me because she had dementia, it was like, this isn't, really, this isn't life, being a vegetable. And anybody that wants to be in that condition because they, are afraid to leave, well, I just don't think it crosses people's minds that they don't want to live anymore because they end up not being able to see their condition because they get so used to it. I think that's kind of the way it works. And we all have that. And that's another good thing that comes out of this, is that we all can get used to having less stimulus. And we can also, all the people that are searching for answers, because like Tino said, when you're looking for the truth, that goes to where they are. And the next level has ways of making sure that people have access to the truth. And that's why I had access to Green Med Info that provided a video that provided another video of two doctors talking about this as a king without clothes. That story. That only some people were able to see that the king had no clothes on. The people that were in league with the king thought that the king had clothes on. And I don't remember the story, but that was one doctor used that analogy. And they were from Germany, both of them. And the other one compared the death rate with the daily death rate. And there were Well, it was less. I mean, it was within the range. I think he said, I wrote it down over here, 20 to 100 older patients a day from previous illnesses. No, the 20 to 100 older patients with illnesses die every day in the presence of normal flus and normal ailments, and not just flus. I don't think. And yet, uh, uh, 30 died in 30 days in Germany out of a population of 100,000, 10,000 that were infected during a period of time. So that 99% and 0.5 in Germany had the same thing as what this woman was saying in Italy. Even though the reports we're getting is that a lot die, but a lot are always dying. And so now they have the virus in them that's in addition to a lot of viruses. Anyway, so the next level, I think, provided those insights to help those that were looking for answers. And I was one of those. I don't have any reason to believe that was made up. And that makes sense with what I'm seeing, actually. But if people aren't open to looking at everything, I really question everything. I mean, not everything. I mean, if someone tells me that there's going to be a show on at 10 o'clock, I don't wonder if they're correct about it. But some people are frustrated with me sometimes, like my ex, when they would tell me something and I would think, are you sure something about that doesn't make sense to me? And they would get like fed up with me, like doing that. Not that I'm the ultimate authority on what makes sense. I'm not. There's plenty of times where I think something doesn't make sense, but it's perfectly real. It's perfectly true. So we can't count on ourselves like that. And if we do, then we get full of ourselves and we blind ourselves to the truth when it comes. And that's what's happened to a lot of Christians. But now they're getting a wake-up call. And they're seeing where I was going to get down to this, actually. Let me get down to it quickly. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds. Well, let me finish what I was saying about Revelation 11:4, about the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. Each of those things have meaning. The candlestick had to do with the Jewish menorah. And so that was given at first, which is the light from the candle comes through the wick. The candle is in the oil. So it's the oil that's actually burning in that wick. And the fire draws it. So I guess they just have to prime it, maybe. That's what they have to do. I don't know how that works exactly. But anyway, so the idea, like Jesus taught, is that to make your eye single, then your whole body was filled with light. And that the eye was the lamp of the body. In other words, we project light, frequency, and we also, and you think about it, that's the way the eye works, right? The light comes in with the images, and then it hits the lens, and then it gets reflected back on itself, so that what we see is what was reflected by the lens, right? So I imagine if your lens is bad, gosh, you might reduce your ability to literally understand certain things, because it's not just the light doesn't just contain the images. It contains like descriptions of the images, and even potentially thoughts can travel on light on different frequencies. In other words, a number of different frequencies can come in. We know that people can see different frequencies. Like more detail, for instance, from any given picture. An example would be the game we played where you opened the tent and you looked inside of it, and you closed the tent in 10 or 15 seconds, and then you try to remember everything and try to write down everything that you saw during that 15 seconds. And I was very bad at that. I saw a few things, but some people saw things and they saw in detail the colors of things, whether there was a zipper on the, they noticed the zipper on the sleeping bag, where I maybe just saw a sleeping bag, on a cot. But then they saw all these other things in the pots and pans and the shape of them, and so the more different people can get more information through their vision. And the two olive trees was the idea that the next level was a family. And that the human kingdom was also the family of human that has its root system, okay? And the fruit from that human family becomes the olive, and so that becomes the souls, and they then provide the truth to the people that got the truth after they did. And by doing that, they end up losing their vehicle eventually, because of it can be from disease, it can be from combination of disease, and no, it can be from somebody getting rid of them, killing them, and it can be from them taking their own life, and it can be from a natural disaster, it can be from an accident, all the ways that we know that people die. So I mean, like we said about everybody, right? Yes, but there's a certain amount of acceleration of that when somebody is serving the next level by standing up for tea and dough, as that's the way to serve the next level now, as being the ones that came from the kingdom that created the earth and all its life forms, and maintain that stand until we leave. Now, how much we do of that, and how much negativity we deal with, it might be very limited when you're in my situation, where you're not actually, face to face with anybody, and people aren't generally hating you. But there are those that hate me. I know that, but for whatever reason, so far it's not been that hard to deal with, because it's only been in indirect ways, in degrees. Because hate isn't like one thing. It's when someone calls you dangerous, they're hating you. I've been called dangerous a number of times. But the only danger I am to anybody is the danger of dwelling in the negative, dwelling in the past, dwelling on misunderstandings, dwelling on misinformation, not wanting to examine the truth, and nothing that would affect anybody in their lives or the health of their vehicles. I'm not dangerous in that way at all, because I don't have the ability or the right to tell anybody else what to do at any given moment. And the next level can tell us what to do, but they don't do it until it's time that they want to accelerate us. And they don't tell us what to do, but they tell us what the reality is. Show us the reality, like through a virus, however it came about. I mean, it could have been leaked out of a lab. It could have been a test from a lab. It could have been in the animals that were sold from a lab. It could have come from some other way that I don't know about, from the ocean, from seafood. Because they say there's lots of viruses in the ocean. So, but in all those cases, the next level knew that this was going to happen. Now, the thing that kept on my mind was, even though I knew that this virus was a flu, with the symptoms like a flu, and that it was the people with underlying conditions that were dying because of it, I still believe that, because Doe said this was spading time, and spading time in his mind included, I believe, people losing their vehicles, and he talked about that. As he in the end time, he would say after he left, which he didn't say this until the same tapes that I didn't hear in person. Last chance to evacuate, where, or it was maybe in Beyond Human chapter session 11, where he said some of this. And I was there for that, but I was kind of distracted from a lot of that. Well, maybe I wasn't distracted yet. I don't know. I was always distracted to some degree. So, not to blame it on anything, but it's just the way it is. But he talked about how, whether we would see thousands of spacecrafts coming in shifts, or maybe we wouldn't see much of anything. Maybe we wouldn't see holograms made by the lower forces, like Fatima and other things like that. And we would just see people dying, a lot more people dying. See, so that always leaves the option for people to not consider that a next level exists, because they can see everything in the practical, from that one dimension. Even though they may think they're seeing the whole picture, and that it's the religious and the spiritual that think there's a spirit world, that are delusional, or that think that you can heal your vehicle with a healthy diet of fruits and vegetables and slow cooked grains. raw and cooked, and strong superfoods like garlic and cayenne pepper and you know cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, so that it might still have its enzyme content in it, and other things that are in the Transfiguration diet. Which, if people want to see more about that, you can go to my blog sawyerhg.wordpress.com and or ask me about it, and I'll give you the link. I'll send you the link. If you send me an email, I'll send you the link to that and other things. I can send you packets of all T&Do's information. I think it'd be great to have that. I mean, it's necessary to have that if we want to stand up for T&Do. We can't do it without knowing what we're standing up for. And of course, I know that Do doesn't need me for this, but is taking advantage of me and anybody else that wants to stand up for them. To be our lessons. We're not doing it for them necessarily, because they have other ways of doing it. Like Jesus said, he could raise up from the dust of the earth, from these rocks, he said, when he was talking about that we need more the harvest is ripe. He was white, I think is what he said. At that point, to the degree of white meaning pure. I mean, ready for a harvest. Maybe the wheat does get kind of white when it's ready to harvest. I don't know that. But I think that's the way he said it, if I remember correctly. But if there aren't any to work the harvest, to help reap the harvest, in a sense, by telling people the truth about the kingdom of God that can be there, and then their seed that they can grow in themselves to becoming fruit for the next level. In other words, a functional member of the next level that has a function, has many functions. See, that's what makes sense. Not that we're going to go sit on a cloud and we're going to do tasks. Anyway, so like a Star Trek crew without any mammalian behavior, or children running around, or propagation like that, or conflicts like humans have with jealousies and competition and anger and bias. And who knows what else? Violence. Then it says in Revelation 11:5, and if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So, and killed is the word, I think, apokatino, is it? Yeah, apokatino. So that they must, that, in other words, they're going to get what they dished out, in a sense. It's like those who live by the sword die by the sword kind of thing. In other words, the next level is not going to let them harm these two. And I believe that applies to their students, because you would be harming their two if the reason they came was for the student body to graduate them into the next level. So hurting the students would be directly hurting them, or vice versa. Hurting them would be hurting the students. And of course, you can define what hurt is. in this manner be killed. Manner is in this manner. Thus so, or likewise, after this manner, even so. So it doesn't necessarily mean after this manner, as if they're killed in the same way that somebody was hurt. And killed doesn't mean, it means destroy in any way by one interpretation, applicatino, and in another interpretation it means, well, my interpretation, taking APO as meaning a separation, when it's used as a conjunction with another word, it means separation related to that other word, in reverse actually, so it's something separate from. And katino means to slay, to kill, but also means to destroy in any way. And that causes separation. And then, so in this context, it doesn't follow with the word auto, A-U-T-O, like it does in Revelation 11, in the next couple of verses, when they use the word killed, and applicatino again, which followed with auto, they translate it as them, and it can also be translated equally as themselves. So basically that means that when the two witnesses are killed, it actually can mean that they separate from their vehicles by their own hand, themselves, to what humans would call suicide, which is not for us at this point. I'm not saying somebody couldn't do it. That's not my business, really. But I don't advise it. I think that you can be learning lessons from whatever you're going through that's making you feel sad or upset, or or that like there can be people that are having suicidal thoughts now because they're losing their business, they're losing their ability to take care of their family, and this is the kind of thing. And Trump even mentioned it, that things like that can happen, and that's one of the reasons why it's not going to continue for very long. And he's showing a lot of sensitive, practical thinking in this last broadcast, especially. Downplaying, that this is going to last throughout the summer. He said it was weeks, not months, that it was going to last. And he didn't even say plural. Well, he did, I guess, say that it was weeks. I think it'll stop when the next level decides it's going to stop, and then they'll realize, the infections will slow down like they did in China already, right? And in South Korea as well. I began to wonder if they were going to keep us on lockdown. I mean, because some of them are talking that way. And but I didn't have the little chunk of information in my head, and maybe even Trump saying it and the other person saying it maybe helped me recognize that the next level still has work to do here before they want to allow the humans to take over 100%, which I don't doubt that's coming. I don't know if it's years away or months away, but I think it gives us the chance to really see what matters, and that's our relationships with our families and friends, and That's what it comes down to, right? And our health comes down to that too. So a lot of people are going to start figuring out that, what, I can't rely on the government. And a lot of people know that already, even though some of them do rely on the government. Some of them don't have a choice because, they're having a lot of problems and they've been poor all their lives or whatever. And for whatever reason, they don't have a lot. So then, that's relying on the good part of the government to help them. Because, T and Do were certainly of a mindset, which they demonstrated in one of the tapes that I listened to not too long ago, where they were talking about this little old man that he lost his house. And for some reason that wasn't in their minds. They just felt like the government shouldn't. I think they foreclosed on his house because he didn't have work to pay for the mortgage. But that's not right. That's not right. This country is rich. And to think so lowly of humans is a sign that that individual is thinking more like a space alien. Not a member of the next level, because the space aliens are the dropouts. They devalue human life. Well, the next level values human life a great deal. And that's why they give us the ability to learn how to take care of our environment and take care of our health. Washing hands, that's the advice we get, right? I mean, that was taught to us in grade school. After you use the restroom, you wash your hands. See, the government could have the choice of taking billions of dollars and after this and making it so the nursing homes and everybody else, to every degree that they can, start inputting more natural foods that are superfoods like garlic and like I said before, some of the list, and vegetables and fresh vegetables, and not overcooked. And that's one thing that was in the Green New Deal, which originally came from the Green Party, which I was a part of for a little while when I voted for Ralph Nader. Well, maybe I didn't. He maybe was an independent. Maybe he wasn't a Green at the time, but I think he had a Green running as his running mate at that time. Anyway, they talked more about health in the Green Party's growing healthy food, but in the Green New Deal, there's 2 or 3 places where they say that one of the big part of the agenda is to have healthy food and everybody to have food and healthy food. And that's great. That's great. But you got to teach them how to eat it. Which foods are the foods that are detrimental to our health? And if we really want a cleansing diet, then it's not going to include. We can get weaned from this, and we can have, have little, give a spoonful of sugar for the horse, for the vehicle, giving them some of the things that we like so much. But overall, the best thing we can do for our vehicles is to transition to fruits and vegetables and nuts and dried fruits, and of course, and honey and cayenne and maple syrup and for our sweeteners instead of sugars, and only slow cooked grains. So I don't know if Ezekiel bread would qualify in that. That's the sprouted bread. Sprouts is part of the diet that the Transfiguration diet includes, and big salads, fresh greens, but also steamed vegetables and a lot of potatoes. Potatoes being like the biggest starch. They didn't have rice in that diet. And I learned the hard way that the rice wasn't doing me any good from my inflammation from Lyme's disease. But I still eat it once in a while. I mean, somebody asked me to come over for dinner the other day and asked me what I could eat, if there's anything that I can eat. I told them, well, I don't eat shrimp, mushrooms, or shrimp. Oh, I said that already. Shrimp and mushrooms, and what else was another thing? Pasta. I don't. I mean, I can eat all those things. I can eat some of all those things, but I'd rather not. And I'd like to limit those things to a rare occasion. Like if I went to somebody's house and I was their guest and they didn't know me and they didn't ask me, give me some food choices, then I would, and they served shrimp and something with a mushroom sauce or and pasta. That could be the meal, right? I would eat a lot of it. I probably wouldn't eat as much as I might eat if it wasn't those things. Well, Doe's the one that said that shrimp and mushrooms were not good food for humans. And they said that humans don't know it yet. Well, at that time he said that. As far as he knew, humans didn't know it yet. Now, since then, maybe some humans do know it. And so I stay away from those. So I'm going to go to the next verse. Well, we'll also notice that fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devour their enemies, for the ones that get hurt. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be held. In other words, there's a karma to it, and there's also their words will shoot down the arguments from their enemies. Because hurt means absolutely. So the people that are saying something is absolutely the way that it is against them, that they're absolutely wrong, they're making a judgment on that person. Also, it means hurt, wrong. It's been used that way. Twice it's been used as wrong. Suffer wrong, be unjust, take wrong, injure. See, so that's all, that hurt has more to do with, well, doesn't necessarily just have to do with physically. I'll give you an example, though, of how somebody was hurt from projecting negativity on Tiando. They were driving in the mountains somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where it was. It might have been Utah, Idaho, or Montana, or Colorado. They did a lot of traveling in those early days. This was like pre-1975, and a car came behind them, and it was a mountain road, so they didn't have any ability to pull over anywhere. and was, making it clear that they were agitated about their speed. And so they ended up passing them and gave them the finger as they were passing them. And a little while down our road, they saw their car in a ditch. They didn't say that they were, dead or anything. I don't think they stopped for them. And I mean, you could say, well, why wouldn't they stop and help? Well, that wasn't their task. They had a task to do for the next level, and so they didn't have instructions to stop. Maybe they considered it. They help humans sometimes, but that wasn't their primary task. That's what we need to do when we're not on a task for the next level. And even if we're on a task for the next level, like right now, standing up for them in some way, and we come upon somebody that's in the ditch, I would stop. But if I thought those individuals would be harmful to me, then maybe I wouldn't. So it depends on the vibe that I get. Because you don't know if somebody's crazy out of their minds on substances or something, and or freaking out because they're going through withdrawals or something, to where they can then try to rob you, and if you don't have what they want, kill you. There's humans that are capable of that, especially if the lower forces get a hold of them. So Tiendo didn't assume, but I'm not saying that Tiendo went through all that thinking. And I don't go through that thinking, but I used to pick up hitchhikers all the time. But now I'm a little hesitant sometimes, but I still pick up hitchhikers. But I know in my mind I kind of like run it by the next level in a sense. I get a vibe from them. And most of the time, it doesn't happen that often, I get a vibe that, this person needs a ride. And so I do it. I don't have that many opportunities for that. I guess few people hitchhike anymore because there's a lot more wackos out there. I think that's true. I think there are more wackos out there than when I was growing up. And I did a lot of hitchhiking around this country and Canada and Mexico a little bit. Just went down to Tijuana one time, that's all. We walked across the border. So hurt can be a number of things. Then the reason I came to this chapter, Revelation 11:6, these have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. The word, what's wrong with this? Huh. I think something's going wrong with my computer. Wouldn't let me change that. So plague is used 12 times, stripe is used 5 times, and wound is used 4 times. And then it also means a blow, stripe, a wound, a public calamity, heavy affliction. That's the way it's used. And we've certainly experienced heavy affliction. And whether the next level stimulated it from scratch or to happen, it's going to be a positive. for those that make a positive from it. I'm not, the people that are in government that are dealing with this, like I said, I think they're shocked. Trump was certainly taken back by it, but he knew all along that it wasn't, the disease itself wasn't serious to the majority of the people. So, and that proved to be true, even though he's been really lambasted because of it. Because it's the people that think that Trump can't do anything right. And so, and when they have okay, well, so they have. It doesn't say that. Some people have said to me, "Well, what did T and No do? Did they shut the heavens? Two witnesses shut the heaven." It doesn't say they shut the heaven. It said, so it doesn't rain. They say that they have the power to. In other words, they're in control of the rain. I forgot about that. Holy smokes! Holy smokes! I've been, Jeff, you've witnessed me talk about global warming, right? And talk about how that it was the next level in charge of the weather. But I never used this example here. Right in plain view. And yet I didn't remember. And I've been through this verse many times in writing the book that I wrote. I didn't spend that much time on this verse because I didn't have application. See, we need application a lot of times to actually see more of reality. We need experience. That's why a lot of times when somebody in the world, in any circumstance, when I say we, I'm talking about everybody. I believe that it probably applies to. But I say probably because I know there's some people that have certain handicaps in certain areas, so it might not apply to them. But that's the only reason that it wouldn't. But you can be doing something a certain way over and over, and think that's the way to do it, and then realize that there's a better way to do it because you had some experience that showed you, that made you search for a different way. And there's tons of examples of that. I know that each of us can identify with. Anyway, so that's the same way with information and information about the next level. We in their writings, even though I'm not saying all these writings are 100% accurate, I think they're pretty darn close, a lot of them. I've seen a number of the ones that aren't so accurate. And 1,000 years, I had problems with that right from the beginning, but I thought I made some sense out of it. And until I heard that tape from Doe in 1994 that I wasn't a part of, where he talked about the 1,000 years not being an accurate part of the book of Revelation in terms of the timing of it. That's my vehicle's daughter. You can hear that in the background. She's making some food in the kitchen. Because we're in lockdown here. New York and Vermont. Vermont's not got quite the lockdown that New York is supposed to have. But, there's places, in a little town where I'm near, in New York, there's no cases of the virus. So, it's only a matter of time before people are going to say, okay, well, you're having these problems in the cities with these nursing homes, but you know. I mean, Burlington had a couple deaths that they did testing on and determined that they had the coronavirus. I don't know how many they tested of the deaths that they have uh, overall in the nursing homes. But Vermont's a small state. There's not that many people. But on Long Island, apparently there's more deaths happening from it. And New York City as well. I think in the hundreds. Which I'm not saying that's not happening. That's happening. But, 99% of the people are not having that problem. I mean, they started quarantining the people in the old folks' homes, and but I think they should allow their loved ones to go stay there with them during that time, so that they don't have to be without their family members. Because if somebody's willing to visit somebody in an old folks' home, they're willing to get sick. I know when my mother was in a home that was, had people that were sick in it. But whenever you went to a public place, you had the potential of being around people that are sick. But see, then again, if your immune system is in decent shape, it's actually good to have that exposure, because that's what helps the immune system gradually build up defenses against things. The whole idea behind vaccinations. And that's the good parts of vaccinations is, they do help with some immunity. And this has helped me be not such an anti-vaxxer. I think I was beating on that a little bit too much. But I think it needs to be beat on at the same time, because I think they can be made a lot safer and not used in every circumstance and not being forced upon people. That's what I think is wrong. I'm still ticking, even though I use some of these words. I don't know if they have real-time checking of the words, or if they have, if they're going to go back and disallow this. If they do, I'll make a point to post it. So they have the power to shut the heaven. And so do they still have that power? Yes. They didn't just have that power while they were walking around the planet. What they said is they felt like they didn't have the power to do that while they were walking around the planet. See, so they were actually saying something that wasn't in the prophecy, and they knew about that part of the prophecy. Those two individuals they lived up to everything they said about each other, because they testified to one another, of one another. They didn't testify to who they are. That's a way of the next level. They don't have that big ego to want to be somebody highfalutin. They know they are highfalutin. Jesus knew he was highfalutin. I just saw it in scripture today. That was right for them to think of him as their master, teacher, guru, rabbi. The true masters don't really want to be the master. but they want to do the task their older member gives them. It's like Tiendo said that the next level wants you to have nice things. The next level wants you to have nice things, but he doesn't want us to want them. See, that's Tiendo's thinking. That's Tiendo's thinking. It's true. It's the most real thinking. Because when you hear that, to me, it's like, at first, I don't know what to do with it. But because why wouldn't they want us to want it? They don't want us to want it because they want us to form a bond with their minds, and that bond become what satisfies us materially. And so we become then happy with whatever we have when we're forming the bond with our older members. Whether it's having to eat cans of beans out of cold cans of beans, or for a meal, or having 7 courses, or however many there are sometimes. Sure, it's nice to have the 7 courses. Or in terms of nice things, that would be part of it. Nice foods. So when you have those things, enjoy them. But the people that end up having all the money they need, and they have a lot of things, they end up getting bored with having all those things, but they don't want to necessarily change it either. And they don't know what else to do, so they continue to live that way. There's occasionally someone, gives away everything and lives in the woods. Or goes to Tibet or something. Or doesn't give everything away but goes to Tibet or lives in the woods. And then they have a second home. Still searching for something that doesn't get old. And then you can also get into the position to where you're fine with the way you're doing every day, even if there's no growth or no opportunity for change. I watch this sport event and I watch this on the TV, and then I go to work and I like my job, and that's all fine. It's nothing wrong with any of that. But the next level shakes that up, and I think they knew that the humans might choose to act the way they're acting. I say might because that's the part that makes it the experiment. The next level they don't play games like humans do, where they, what are the odds are people responding in this way and that way. They don't make wagers, I think I'm safe to say, with one another, on how somebody's going to respond. But maybe I'm wrong. I should say it just for the sake of saying it, because I don't know. Absolutely, that's true. It just doesn't make sense to me that they would get any pleasure from doing that. I think what they do is they hope that humans are going to have the best responses. Which it does stimulate. It can stimulate, but can also stimulate the negative, especially if they they're seen as making this too political and sending all the money to the corporations. Which the Democrats appear to be fighting against doing. Or maybe they just don't want to do it as much as the Republicans do. Because now the corporations are going to get money. I mean, like the airline industry is going to certainly get some money. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. The airline industry is made up of people. And there's a lot of jobs there that are being affected. So, but those corporations should then, give those people that were laid off back pay, because that's what the government's doing, is trying to keep the economy back into a condition to where it's growing, at least has the appearance of growing. Because it's not the end of the world in terms of time for them to go to their underground bunkers. Some of them might have thought it was. And some of them might have used that as an exercise of where to go, who goes where, because of what they've paid into having the opportunity to do when there's something on the surface of the planet that is threatening everybody's lives. So what can we do now, right? Well, let me finish this one thing here in Revelation 11, since I went through so many verses of it. Revelation 11:6. They have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. I can hear myself saying it, and when I read it, it's like I'm reading it like, someone that's trying to dramatize it. I'm sorry about that. I don't mean to do that. It's just the way it comes out. I read that verse already. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And that's what I was talking about before, how apokataino, and apokataino auto is kill them. And that means APO is separate from, and kataino is destroy in any way, or kill or slay, and auto is them or themselves. So it's saying that they separated from by death by their own hand is a way of saying that that's actually took place. And so how do you make sense of that with what Tienda said was that the killing in the streets was being shot down by the press? Well, it says that they should make war against them and shall overcome them. That word overcome is from Nike, Nikeo. Overcome, to conquer, to carry off the victory, come off victorious. And it's spelled Nikao in the Greek, and it's pronounced Nikeo. But it just so happens to look like Nike, and they were wearing Nike sneakers that was saying just do it or just do it. I mean, they couldn't even come up with that name for those sneakers because the next level crew member suggested it when somebody was wondering about what to name them. Because if they're wondering about it, then they're asking. And the next level sees that and can give them that little idea. And then Do can get instructions They can even put them on sale, or T could even put them on sale because Doe knew that T was always looking for a sale when they needed something, or if they wanted something for a new step. And so they went to wherever they went to get tennis shoes, or they called them tennis shoes, I think, as opposed to the way the East Coasters say sneakers. And I guess because you can sneak up on things better. East Coast thieves, right? Or you could get away from the police better when they're harassing you for some reason that, because you've got a little bit of herb in your pocket. So they overcome them, so they were overcome in the sense that they were holed up in a Las Vegas hotel room for 3 days. They said they didn't say 3.5 days. They said 3 days, and my memory anyway, and they felt like the mission was dead. And Doe talked about this in 88 Update and the Beyond Human series, and in Inverness tapes. I think he might have mentioned it in one of those tapes from 1994. Oh yeah, but what this definition didn't say, but there's no other software that does say, is that it means subdue, is the root meaning of that word, to subdue. So they weren't totally overcome. Only their vehicles' reputations, and they were called false leaders, that they weren't from the kingdom of God. So they were being shot down by that, and they were told that they were criminals because Doe had a felony because he copped a plea when the charges had been dropped by the credit card company. I mean, the rental car company, and T's charges were dropped after she was a month in jail by the person that had claimed that had reported the credit card stolen when it had been given to them by their first student. I think had named Sharon. Might have been Flexodi. I never did make that connection. And Flexodi left her vehicle, so I understand. So I think I understand that from Mark. So that's how the prophecies can be completely true. And then it says that the dead bodies laid in the streets of the great city, spiritually is called Sodom. Well, isn't it interesting that Las Vegas is thought of as the devil's by some Christians because of all the prostitution and the sex working and the um, the gambling that, you know, I don't know where Jesus said anything about against gambling. Might have been something wrong about it in something in the Old Testament, but Jesus was bringing updates and lessons, and so he's the one to follow if you're a Christian. And if he didn't talk about it, then that might have been misinformation that Moses said, or maybe Moses didn't write everything. But maybe they did have a problem with, uh, you know, making money into something that we're willing to, like, you know, I mean, having a game. Let's say you had a game and you didn't have any money, so you wagered food. You know, I mean, if the other person needed the food and they were, you know, giving you the last piece of food because you lost the bet, to me that wouldn't be next level. That would approve of that. But but I don't know if there's, you know, certain forms of gambling that is just like a game. It's no big deal. You know, I mean, if it's meaningless for the person to lose, really, then it's just an option in life. You know, they said everything in the human kingdom was an opportunity to get into or get out of. And getting out of it would be the human things that were strictly from the human kingdom, where the things that came from the next level is instructions like you should not kill. You got to get out of that thinking that that's the right to do in any circumstance. Why? Because that's the next level of instruction. If we don't recognize it's the next level of instruction, then we can project our thinking, you know, to the highest source we can imagine, uh, to try to understand, you know, more the reality of that. If we have an aversion to thinking of it as a spiritual next level, it's not a spiritual next level. I mean, it is. It's spiritual, but it's also, because spirit has to do with mind, and the next level has the divine mind is the next level's mind, members of the next level, not just the universal mind. That's a bastardization or a distortion of the truth that gets people off the track to think that it's just the universal mind that made everything happen, gave us all these options. Because it's actually people that did it. And so, you know, so to think that when you die, if you believed in universal mind and you thought you were an instrument of that universal mind, automatically, because the universal mind is everywhere, that's taking those statements about how the Lord can see you, you know, in your sleep, which the Lord can. The next level can if they want to. But they don't invade us. And see is relative to what's going on in our minds, but also see. If they have a reason to be monitoring our vehicles, then they have a way of doing it. But then to take it as, you know, like God is spirit and God is everywhere, as meaning that, you know, is in all things, which, yes, God is in all things in terms of how their minds put everything into motion to develop the genetic code and all that, and seeds and things like that. And but to use that as a a sense of the person that's talking about that as being advanced, uh, see, there's no goal there. Well, they would say that enlightenment is the goal, and you don't have to reincarnate anymore. Well, that's like saying that you'll be permanently in a spirit world, and you'll be content with that. When there's a whole nother evolutionary strata that they could aspire to, that they might not get there if they're satisfied with thinking that they're going to be in the spirit world. Now, I don't go around thinking that, I'm not satisfied with my human life. Now, that's a fault of mine. That's actually not a fault, but it's just evidence of that my growth isn't that good, because I'm not seeing. I mean, during the time when all these things were happening intensely, and still are to some degree, then I'm like, wow. If it got worse than this, what's there to live for? But then I can live for helping my daughter get through it. And, but I can't go, if I get so glued to living for my offspring when the offspring don't belong to me. Just by having offspring doesn't, Tiendo said, they don't belong to you. They're not your possessions. And they don't have to take care of us in our old age. They don't owe that to us, although honoring your father and your mother does have some value towards, helping them in their old age, I think. But like Jesus said, when the next level's calling you, and you identify that, you recognize it's the next level, is part of that. Like people are recognizing that Tiendo are exactly who they said they were. Well, actually, the application of the way Jesus put it was when the older member is physically incarnate and says, come and follow me, they know that you're ready. And now you can look at saying, come and follow me in a number of different ways. That by it's an invitation. It's an invitation, in other words. I'm not saying to come and follow me. Come and follow Tiendo is who is giving the invitation, and I'm passing on that invitation is available to everybody right now. It's been available for a long time, but it's, the next level keeps the door open for a long time relative to the human condition of like a day to a year, a day to 1,000 years. 1,000 years passes in the human condition, and it's like a day to next level. So, truthing the world says makes sense. I think so too. And So then what about the verse where it says, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half. Oh no, I didn't finish that thing that Jesus said about the person that said, I can't follow you because I have to bury my father. Now, I mean, you can take bury literally that he had to literally dig the grave and have a little ceremony, because I don't know that that would be, you know, I mean, if you really wanted to follow with him, he would say, can I actually dig the grave to bury my father? But I think what that illustration was that Jesus was referring to was, I need to stay around to take care of my father until his death. So in a sense, then, Jesus saying that, well, he said, let the dead bury the dead. In other words, let the humans that aren't trying to apply to be alive by the next level's determination of what is true life, that being life in the next level. Let them be the ones to determine how to help that individual that you're leaving behind in order to give your all to what you recognize as being your older member, God. So that doesn't stop you. Now, the circumstance now is different from that, unless, something happened and you felt like you had to leave, and you felt like it was related to the next level. Because the next level can, when something happens that's even like a greater event than happened recently, and it's still happening to some degree, I think it'll come to the recognition. It'll come with the recognition built into it that a bunch of people that have begun to bond with Tiendo through their trying to do their as much as they want to adopt their behaviors and ways and thinking and standing up for them, working for them by bringing up Tiendo as to people in conversations when it comes up or whatever they want to do it, but not to harass people with. I don't think bring it up if you're in a chat room, and then see what the responses are and stay with it for a little while, and then I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying what I kind of felt to do when they were threatening to block me. Well, that did happen. I ended up kept on talking until I got blocked. All right, but I'm not gonna try to come in with a different name to that group. Which I could easily do with a lot of different news groups and things like that. But I mean, they need to be asking. And so I don't, if I see something in the feeds that I get where Christians are talking about something and they seem to be asking for opinions, I definitely would go to those. I go to them anyway, a lot of them, and see if they allow me to make a comment. And sometimes I make a comment, but some of them have blocked me so that it's too hard to make a comment and think that it's going to exist there anymore. So I don't want to waste my time. There's so much to do in this regard all over. I mean, there's the talk of the plagues in Revelation 16:2, which is looks like it could be a medical event and also a mental event that causes a lot of stress and troublesome. time of trouble like hasn't been seen before. That's what period we're in. Now, Christians argue whether that was to take place before or after Jesus came back. And it was to take place both, because the one that was called Jesus in his next level vehicle, Doe, indicated that he was going to be coming back to finish the task, and T indicated that as well. And that's Revelation 19, I believe, depicts that, even though they didn't talk about Revelation 19 that I ever heard. That depiction shows that the individual is on their spacecraft, because they come riding a white horse, but they have a vehicle that's been dipped in blood that they're wearing at the same time. So both those descriptions are there. And Doe said that when he comes back again, if it's in that vehicle that was called Jesus that left, he won't be showing his scars on the vehicle's hands. I don't know that he even has them anymore on that vehicle, because I think it's probably totally healed. And he had another next level vehicle before that, when he was, I think, maybe the Moses vehicle and the Elijah vehicle were his vehicles. Now, since the next level took them back, maybe they did bring them back together to and showed them to those three students on that what was called the Transfiguration Mountain. Truth in the World says, according to the remote viewing sessions done by the Farsight Institute, Jesus was not of this world and did come and go in a ship. Well, they got that part right. That's what my opinion is on that. And I'm familiar with the Farsight Institute. But I forgot what they said about the Hale-Bopp comet. I think somebody did think that there was a spacecraft with it. That's what I kind of remember. From the Farsight Institute. One thing I do need to do is get more exercise, because I got kinks in my back, because I've been pretty much doing this for 12 hours a day. I mean, writing things and talking, commenting, and studying, trying to research things, and when things don't make sense. And there's been a lot of that. I think all of us have seen a lot of that. So I actually didn't go through any of the things I wanted to go through. But I guess I went to the place that maybe the next level wanted me to go to. because I am. I've talked about Revelation 11. I've got videos talk about Revelation 11, and I've got live streams where I talked about different places in Revelation 11. But see, the thing is, I didn't have the information I have now in the events that have transpired in the world. And, that's what enables us to see more. We talked about that before. All right, so then truthing the world, yes. And truthing the world says, and they confirmed that the ships are a combination of natural rock and man-made structures. Oh, interesting. Man-made structures. I don't know what that's about. I mean, but now they could also be tuning into the space aliens, because the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls, they work with all the humans that can have an influence over a lot of humans. So that to me sounds like it's a mixture then. Like natural rock, yes. I mean, I don't know. Tiando, I don't remember talking about what substances were used for their physical spacecrafts. But if you look at the descriptions of the physical spacecrafts in the like in the Book of Revelations, that I know is not 100% accurate, they describe them using minerals to describe them, and minerals are rocks. The Truthing of the World says they use the term man made to differentiate between natural and not natural man. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, well, that's Tiando did refer to members of the next level as man at one point. Not very much. I didn't hear them talk about it. And they didn't talk about it in any more detail than that I heard. But I know somebody that might have heard them. So I'm going to give him a phone call, see if he can talk more about that so that I can have that information. And that's Stu Odie, who I Stewart. And they definitely are next level structures. But so Tiando taught that the space aliens are only allowed to travel in the near space around the Earth. Now, they didn't get specific and say anything about how far out that went. But because Jesus talked about the signs for this period now and up until this point even, but in particular, couldn't be applied to now because people need the signs now more to help awaken from some more people need now that help, just like I needed help to awaken more, and I still need help to awaken more, and everybody needs help to awaken more all the time. Okay, so it's not a competition thing. I know those ways of saying it can make it look like, I'm saying that some people are worse, less than others, but that's not the case, because nobody knows what other people have overcome in this world. And nobody knows what each other have been up against. through our genes and through our environment that our vehicles grew up in, and what the next level interface has been with that vehicle and the soul and or spirit that's in that vehicle. So, with that said, no, I lost where I was. It's like if I get too far away from the core thought that I'm following at the time, that thread, I like detach from it. I usually can get it back though. Oh, I think natural and not natural. So, well, natural man would be a next level member, a vehicle and a soul driving that vehicle, has that vehicle wrapped around their soul body. The soul is a body too. It's a plasma kind of consistency, according to Doe. So, so that would be the natural body. And they said that the human body was the unnatural body because it came about as a result of deceit and mammalian propagation and breaking of instructions. Well, not breaking of instructions so much in that example, but the combination of those things that happened that were missing the mark that Adam was being tested with and that he failed doing, but that he overcame he overcame and then left in the vehicle that was named Enoch. So he converted the human unnatural vehicle. Now, they said that there weren't any place in the heavens. They felt like there wasn't any place in the heavens that was like the earth with its human population because of the way that the lower forces were put in prison here in order to provide the free will testing environment. And but they said that, and they said this in the Black Hawk tapes, and they said that, however, there could be another human equivalent civilization on a different planet if they had the same circumstance with the lower forces being provided as a testing environment. But they didn't think that was the case. But they were leaving it open, saying basically I could be wrong about that. See, T and Doe had the humility as well, and they didn't have to have it because we were holding on their every word. But see, next level members don't abuse that. So they say what they know. And even if what they say they know is they know is not 100% accurate a lot of times. Sometimes I think they know they said they know what they know what they don't know, and they know where to go to learn what they don't know. That was their words. So that was great. Thank you for. I'm glad to hear all that about the Farsight Institute. That's really that shows to me that the next level was giving them help with that. I mean, I'm not saying that the lower forces weren't also influencing certain people doing that kind of work. Those experiments. They do. That's why Tiendo said that in order to ask a question and get back a truthful answer from the next level, that you should project your thinking of getting an answer to the highest source you can imagine existing in the heavens, in among the stars, because then it's out of reach. And they taught this from the beginning. And it's out of reach of the space aliens and the discarnate world, the world of spirits and humans, of course, to give you that answer. And the next level, when they see somebody asking for the truth and it's genuine, and they may wait for you to build up your thirst so that you might ask for the truth in one way, and they might respond in some way, but the responses can change with and even the sense of them responding to us can change with our growth in adopting the changes or the ideas that are presented to us when we're asking for the help. And the way it works for this vehicle, for me in this vehicle, is that I'll ask for help with something, and just want to know something, if it's true or not. That's asking for help. Now, a lot of times I have Tiendo on my mind when I do that, but other times I don't have them directly on my mind when I do that. But that's my intention, to know what's true. But before I joined the classroom, I didn't do that. But I still wanted to know the truth about things. And so T said that when you want to know the truth about something, that it goes to where they are in the next level, where headquarters is. It doesn't necessarily go to Tiendo while they're incarnate, but maybe it does. I don't know if it works that way as well. But because it depends on their task, whether they want to have their energy focused on what people in the world are asking for the truth about. And then when because T had more than one vehicle, Do said. And Do said that he didn't have more than one vehicle, and he put his vehicle in the closet. He said that in 1975. And that they took human vehicles that wouldn't have survived physically had they not taken them over and monitored them and helped them. And they said they were borrowing their vehicles. And I guess that was like an indication that they would be returning to the dust of the earth, so to speak, or would eventually decay, as opposed to, after the fact I can see that. Not that it couldn't have been, for their vehicles, yes, but for our vehicles, I don't know. Our vehicles, and people's vehicles now, it may be possible, I think it is possible, that they could actually grow so fast that the next level could take their vehicle onto the spacecraft. I don't know. It's the reason I say it's possible is because Tiendo said that all growth is possible. That next level doesn't hold you back. So and they use the example that you could even grow past your older member. But it's not probably going to happen because your older member really knows how to grow fast. By having tasks to do for their older member. That's how they grow. doing tasks for humans can help us grow because, in a lot of ways. But when the older member is available, which he still is now, then the greatest love is giving our all to the next level. And what does that mean right now? Well, I think it means saying to the next level, I want to be putty in your hands. In some words, some shape or form of that. I want to be your servant, full time. I want to give my all. And then the next level will help you do that. And I don't think they would get. Well, no, they won't. They won't tell you. They won't give you an indication of committing suicide. I mean, if somebody has that thought that that would be right for them, well, they should. I think they should. Sorry, I just lost my connection. I want to finish that sentence, of course, because Doe talked about different ways of exiting. To separate from the human kingdom to that degree, because that is the task, to separate from the humanness. That's the formula, and that includes behaviors and ways. So, but to leave our vehicles before we've had a chance to take advantage of all the growth that we can get while in the vehicle that's necessary, that would be a mistake, I think. And they talked about that in the Heaven's Gate book, in Stan Modi's document of evolutionary rights or something like that. The right to lay down their vehicle. So we have the right to do it. We've always had the right to do it. But they said that to do it because we don't want to learn the lessons that we have, that's not the right reason. So if we lose a loved one and we want to end our life, that's not the right reason. We can learn from that experience. If we lose our fortune, our house in a storm, whatever the reason is, we can get lessons from that. We can grow from that. So we need our vehicles more than ever now to learn lessons through, so that we can build our strengths and be of service to the next level. Because there's a lot of people that are, as these plagues get worse and worse, which they are, the calamities, not just plagues in terms of a medical virus, and the ramifications of it with the world freaking out about it. That is another whole, imposition of pain and suffering on the people, but that can be made into a positive. Those plagues are going to keep on, those calamities are going to keep on coming periodically. And I don't know how far apart they'll be, but the next one talks about the sea as being I don't know if they're talking about one sea being destroyed, the life of it in it, or if it's like the signs that we've seen of it are like with the Fukushima, with all that radioactive waste going into the Pacific Ocean. That's definitely killing a lot. of life in the sea. Now, volcanoes could also do that, kill a lot of life in the sea. If the lava goes into the sea and ends up killing all the sea life that's on the floor of however far it goes, and puts some different mineral, makes the water into a different, alkaline acid balance that can lead to a lot of death of seafood, sea life. And good old, not good old, but Mount Etna has shown signs of erupting. And all the volcanoes that have shown signs of erupting over the last 100 years or so, maybe even 200 years, are probably the ones that are going to be erupting more and more. And that might contribute to the seas being like in the Hawaii volcano. And there was a volcano maybe in China that was actually was coming out of the sea, I think, and creating an island. So my thing went out again and then came back on again, my OBS. Maybe my hard disk is getting full because these take a lot of space and I've done a lot of them without moving some of them off into a different storage device. So I think I'm going to have to bring this to a close because I'm seeing signs of it. YouTube might be getting to what they consider a limit for me. I don't want this broadcast to be lost, but if it is, I'll upload it, even in 3 sections, if I have to. But I've got video software, so I can combine them. But I'm getting a little indication there that something's having trouble, taking a long time to happen. So, with that said, it's been a pleasure. It's been this is a wild ride we're all going through. And it's a serious ride. It's not a game. I know that. And I know there's going to be more people that die. And it's something that we all have to deal with. And we can be grateful for the life. People say that God is evil because he allows death and things like this to happen. But is God evil because he allows life to happen more? It doesn't make sense to go one-sided there. But people don't understand that the next level designs it so that it's a temporary condition because the spirits and the souls can be saved from it. So that the flesh is like the leaf on the tree, and it comes back in the next season. And the souls and the spirits can be brought back to go into those leaves. It's not the same thing as reincarnation. It's not automatic. And souls have to be brought back by the next level, or left here if they went against the next. So good night, folks.